Hey up guys, S-Man back at it again with a brand new Horizons review. Now, let's waste no time and get into this very intriguing episode. Picking right off where last week is, the Horizons cast, the Rising Volt Attackers enter Area Zero while being tailed by the Explorers. They explore a little bit and see all the cool Pokemon, and eventually they meet up with Briar, who they all together have a meeting about Area Zero as a whole and the fleeting spiting of Entei, and also the warning she has to make sure they stay safe against the wild Paradox Pokemon. But this whole thing sets up basically the cast with Dot wanting to see a wild Paradox Pokemon, Liko being interested in them, and Roy wanting to battle. Meanwhile, we get set up for later in the episode of Coral being annoyed and bored during their entire mission, which leads to her in the future going off on her own. But yeah, the Rising Attackers and Briar begin to explore Area Zero when Roy suddenly notices a Sandy Shocks and runs off on his own to battle the Sandy Shocks. Now, it does cut away from the battle, but I'll say it right here. I agree with everyone saying Roy should have caught the Sandy Shocks, and I also wish we got more to the battle because basically we get a little bit of Roy running away from the Sandy Shocks because of how dangerous it is. For him finally to get the upper hand, using a disarming voice, cutting away, and we see Roy taking him down with a flame charge. And once Roy says goodbye, he says, "I hope we can meet again soon." And him and Crocodile start singing as they walk off. And the Sandy Shocks start singing along with them. This is why I wish Roy caught the Sandy Shocks. Because the Horizons trio all have 3 Pokemon, or aside from Liko, have 2 Pokemon. And they haven't caught anything in a while, or had an evolution in a while. And having Roy catch a Paradox Pokemon would have been a really interesting twist, because especially with the Rayquaza arc seeming to end in a few episodes, it would have been like really crazy to see Roy pull out a third-party member in the fight against Rayquaza. But yeah, hopefully Sandy Shocks comes back in the next episode or the other. We know next episode's still in Area Zero, and we have no clue about anything about the episode after that, so we'll see where this goes. But yeah, this episode had a lot to it, but not on the Rising Volt Attacker side, on Coral actually, because this is a Coral-centric episode about her meeting a ScreamTail. She thinks ScreamTail is stupid and constantly picks fights with it and messes with it and calling it annoying and stupid and kind of cute and funny. The normal Coral things. But all the shenanigans summon a great Tusk to fight them. That's when we get a cool battle where Coral wants to show off to the stupid little ScreamTail. So, she and Galele fight the Iron Tusk. And we also get moments of ScreamTail jumping in to help out with the battle. But it's not really that strong, so it keeps getting pushed back, causing Coral to laugh and make fun of it. But yeah, we get a really cool scene, and like it just shows off how good Coral's at battling. But because she's immature, rash, and impatient, she constantly just rushes in and uses Explosion. And we actually see a really cool clash between Galele's Ice Spinner and Rollout from the Great Tusk. Like I said, she rushes into things, immature and rash. She uses Explosion, but the Great Tusk just throws Galele back into her and ScreamTail, and they all explode. After the battle, her and ScreamTail and Galele all laugh together, and she calls it annoying and she calls it weak, and also points out that for someone who likes to scream a lot, especially because like right before the battle they had a screaming fight, it got really timid during that fight. So it starts screaming again at Coral, so she tries to throw a rock at it, but accidentally grabs a Pokeball and throws it at it, catching ScreamTail. And her whole reaction to this was just hilarious, where she's just shocked, especially because the point in the episode where she caught it is during the day, and when it cuts back to her, because it cuts to the Rising Volt Attackers after this, it cuts back to her still in the same position, staring at the Pokeball like, what did I just do? I caught this thing, are you kidding me? But yeah, she sends it out to make sure she did catch it, and it starts screaming at her, And that's when Onyx arrives back to see what she's doing because she disappeared during their mission, and he sees that she caught ScreamTail. And their whole plot ended on a funny joke where the Rising Volt attackers are camping, and ScreamTail keeps screaming, basically alerting. They don't know it yet, but it's basically alerting to them that, hey, the explorers are here. If they knew she had a ScreamTail. But yeah, the episode properly ends with the Rising Volt attackers and all their Pokemon. Nice to see Tinkatuff again. I don't think we've seen it since it evolved, so it was nice to see it again. All their Pokemon are sleeping in a cave where Briar goes to sleep early, saying, "Oh, we best get shut-eyed before the fight tomorrow against Entei," which really we should be saying Gouging Fire. But the Rising Volt tacklers all stay up and discuss Paradox Pokemon, what they think they are, and Roy even mentions the one that he encountered. The one which I hope he catches. Like, it would have been a really cool if instead of it running off, it just followed him, and Roy takes a liking to him, and then at the end of the episode, right after Coral catches her Paradox Pokemon, when he reunites with the cast, they all see it following him, and he notices, "Hey, I didn't notice you following me." And then he talks about their battle together, and then catches it. That would have been a crazy ending to this episode, and also would have been really good setup because I hope they use all the Pokemon against Gouging Fire instead of just their starters. Especially after they saw how certain Pokemon weren't that helpful during the Entei fight. Like I said, please, instead of using Floragato, use Hatchram to basically be a healer during the fight. But yeah, overall, I liked this episode. I liked it more than last week, and I thought it was really fun getting a Coral-centric episode because besides Mifio and Spinel, she's my favorite explorer. And if Mifio and Spinel weren't in the show, she would be my favorite explorer. And it just shows that how good a lot of the characters are, where I really liked her characters. From the second the sign was revealed and she said one thing, I knew I was going to love her, and I still love her. She's one of the best, better characters on the show. But then there's a lot of characters who are above her, so it just shows how good a lot of these characters in Horizons are. And I'm so happy she got ScreamTail, because it fits her so much. And I really think it would be cool if we see all of the explorers get a form of Paradox Pokemon. Because imagine Onyx getting maybe the Larvesta one, or maybe even Iron Jugulus, or the Tyranitar Iron. I forgot what it's called, but yeah, it would be really interesting if we see, and all their next fights with the Rising Volt attackers, them all have Paradox Pokemon, and it would be because oh, she caught one. Maybe it's a good idea to catch these Pokemon and throw off our opponents because we've all fought against the Rising Volt attackers enough that they know what we have and what to expect. But now they're not going to expect a ScreamTail and other Paradox Pokemon if they do. But yeah, I gotta give this episode 9 out of 10. Very fun, very good setup for Gouging Fire next week. It's good that they just didn't rush right into it. We got the Entei episode, and then it ended with, "This isn't our Entei. We need to," and then with Briar contacting them, go to Area 0. That's where we'll find your Entei, and we get the episode of them getting permission to Area 0, and then an episode of exploring Area 0 instead of just rushing right into Gouging Fire and then leaving Area 0. We get an episode to explore this cool and crazy place, and I hope we get more of Area 0 because it is one of my favorite areas in Paldea. But yeah, hope you guys liked this video. Subscribe for more content like this in the future. S-Man, signing off.